Vayar Ekimus B'nei Yisrael, according to the Shlokish, means that he saw their rebellion at the Yam Suf. Then, so he quotes Vayam Gol Yom Suf, Vayed Elikim, but Hashem knew them, Shiyoda Shein Asidim Lema Zakeli. That he knew that ultimately that they would pass through the sea and they would sing a shira in which one of the main features was their exclamation of Zakeli V'anveyu. This is my God and I will glorify him. So Vayar is a negative thing. He saw the rebellion. And nonetheless, Vayeda, he saw he knew them, that they were going to say Zakeli, so that redeemed them. Rabbi Michel ben Levi Amar, Rosh Hasidim Lema Ela Lehecha Yisrael. The Re'iyah, which was negative, just like the Shlokish said that the Re'iyah, the seeing was negative, that was, he saw where Klal Yisrael would be guilty of the exclamation of Ela Lehech Yisrael. This was by the ego. By Yed Alikim is positive. Shasidim lahagdim nasa lenishma, that they would say nasa and nishma, that they would say nasa before nishma. So it's basically I want to focus on those two opinions. I think we will readily see that according to the Shlokish, seems to make more sense. He says he saw that they were going to rebel at the edge of the sea, and then, but later on he saw they redeemed themselves. They exclaimed Zakeli V'anveyu. According to Rabbi Michel ben Levi, it works the other way around. The Re'iyah was something that occurred after Matan Torah, so the negative happened later. So it seems to be that whatever it was that should be redeeming them would have occurred later, and here he saw, first of all, that they said Nas V'nishma, great, a very inspired exclamation, and then they went ahead and served so how does that work? So that's question number one. So I would like to suggest that Rish Lakish and Rabbi Shua ben Levi are both addressing a quality of Klal Yisrael which could be used in a very superb way, in a very exalted way, and which, if it's misappropriated, becomes a source of weakness. And that is that Klal Yisrael is known for their humility. Ki atem hama'at mikol ha'amim. Because you are the least. Now, in that case, the Pasuk seems to be referring to their number. They're the least numerous, but Rashi says, Ki atem hama'at she'atem ha'matin etzchem, that you are a nation that humbles themselves. No matter, the more that the Rebbeinu Shalom gives them, the more grateful they are, the more they feel they are undeserving of what they receive. So Klal Yisrael has this remarkable quality of anivus. We have this wonderful Noitrikun, an acronym which refers to the three quintessential expressions of anivus. Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Manachnu ma," what are we? Avraham Avinu said, "Onechi Ofer va'Efer," and David HaMelech said, "Onechi Toilas v'lei Ish." So, if a person is honest with themselves, then when they stand in the sight of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they will be moved to exclaim, what am I? When I'm standing in the presence of something infinite. What is my service? What is my avdus to Hashem when there's so much more that I could and should be doing. So when a person is brutally honest with themselves, when a person is emes, so the aleph stands for Efa, the mem stands for Nachnu Ma, and the tov stands for Terlas. So in the word emes, you have those three most exquisite expressions of humility. But humility is only good when it's used in the presence of Hashem and in the right way. But we also know that there's a time in which a person is not permitted to act with subservience, that he's not, the Christians translate the word anivus as meek. Anovim Yisrael, they translate as the meek shall inherit the earth. Moshe Rabbeinu was not meek, Avraham Avinu was not meek, David HaMelech was not meek. They weren't wimps. We're talking about people who were very powerful and very strong. Humility does not imply meekness or weakness. So we're called upon, Yehoshaphat, the king Yehoshaphat, of him it's written, Divrei Hayomim, Vayigba Libay B'darkei Hashem, when it came to things that demanded a presence, that demanded courage, that demanded pride, that demanded a certain confidence. So that's when a person is supposed to stand up with a certain pridefulness and a certain gavhus, to think well of themselves, to think that they're significant, that their avodah means something. So while anivus is a very central issue, there are times when anivus needs to recognize that it's the wrong expression. When Klal Yisrael came to the sea and they turned around and there was the Egyptian army pursuing them, so in a certain sense they fell into a trap of saying to themselves, well, Rabbi Michel did all of those miracles on our back, but we're no longer worthy of any further miracles. We've exhausted Hashem's bounty, Hashem's chesed. Yankov Avinu, even though Hashem promised him that he would watch over him, said, Shema Yigrei Machet. Maybe I'm no longer worthy. And Klal Yisrael, when they saw that they were convinced that Mitzrayim was totally wiped out, devastated, and all of a sudden now they're pursuing. Well, so maybe Yigrei Machet, maybe we're no longer worthy. That was an expression of misplaced humility. That wasn't the place for humility. They should have trusted in Hashem. They should have had pride in the fact that they were a nation that the Rabbi Michel had liberated with a great deal of attention. So when Rish Lakish, you want to give Rabbi Oppenheimer? Do we have a sheet for Rabbi Oppenheimer so he can see the? Okay, good. So when Rish Lakish says Vayag Alikim es Bnei Yisrael, that he saw them, what did he see? He saw their rebellion al Yam Suf, which was a symptom. It was a symptom of a nation that had lost its pride, that had lost its courage, its confidence, its sense of self-worth. But Vayed Alikim, he seeing is a surface thing. Yediyah is a deeper thing. So when you look at the surface, you see a nation in disarray. You see a nation that's confused, that's frightened, that's terrified. You see a nation that's lost its self-confidence. But Vayeda Elikim, the Rebbeinu Shalom looked deeper, and he looked into the neshama of the Jew, and he saw a nation that was able to say, Zakeli v'yanvehu. That's a very personal expression. In the middle of the Yam Suf, they saw great things. And they said, so Rashi there says there were two things happening. That Klal Yisrael was saying, I have a Yerusha, I have a faith that comes to me through an illustrious tradition, but Zakeli, I also have a personal investment, I also have a personal acquisition. And that Klal Yisrael, when they were in the midst of Kriyas Yam Suf, they were able to discern in themselves their ability to make that kind of a statement about their relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not just, why do I believe? I believe because my forefathers taught me this. I have a tradition. I believe because we had great tzaddikim in our past. I believe because I am also worthwhile. I have the Rebbeinu Shalom didn't say Zali Kenu, but Zak Keli. This is my God, and the ability to take ownership of the fact that I out of the expanse of the entire universe, the Rebbeinu Shalom looks at me, and I have the right to say Zak Keli. The Rebbeinu Shalom says Vayeda. He knew them, he looked into the neshama, and he saw their ability to say Zakeli, and that is what redeemed the fact that the humility that he saw was a surface thing. Their terror, their fright at the Yam Suf was not the real Klal Yisrael. The real Klal Yisrael never loses that core of being able to say Zakeli. That's a chelik. We'd say the chelik of the Kamal. The Rebbeinu Shalom is invested in each one of us something which is so incorruptible and so much a part of our essence that we can, even when we are frightened, and even though when we think we're not worthwhile, but sof kol sof, when you scratch, you go deep enough down, by Yed Elikim, when he knows them rather than just looking at them. So Yed Elikim, the Shlokish says, means that he saw their ability to say Zakeli, and that's why he was able to move forward with the Geula. Yeshua ben Levi is working basically with the same problem of Klal Yisrael's, they're a very temperate kind of a nation in the sense that there were two nations there. There was Klal Yisrael, and then there was the Erev Rav. And the Erev Rav, according to some opinions, were twice the multitude of Klal Yisrael. So if there was Shishim Riboy of Bnei Yisrael, there was 1,200,000 of the Erev Rav. They were a massive number. Nonetheless, Klal Yisrael recognized that the Erev Rav did not have any kind of a heritage of monotheism, that they have been idolaters, and that's all that they were exposed to. So they were tolerant. And if we look at ourselves basically today, I think we're a pretty tolerant nation, not maybe between ourselves, but where the world can have all of these different religions, and our opinion is, Gesundheit, just leave us alone. You can do whatever you want. We're tolerant of other faiths. Klal Yisrael made a huge mistake when the Erev Rav presented them with this ego. Klal Yisrael their involvement of Klal Yisrael was minuscule. It was less than a fraction of 1% of Klal Yisrael that was involved. The chet of Klal Yisrael was, their complicity was the fact that they didn't protest. They should have stopped it. That was their complicity. So, Vayar Likim as Bnei Yisrael, the surface is that Klal Yisrael was very tolerant. Yeah, everyone wants to do it, sollen sich schlugen Kopf in Wand, let them beat their heads against the wall. It geht mir. And that was, by the Rebbeinu Shalom, that was a huge insult. There's a place for humility and a place to say, yes, I'm open to different opinions, I'm open to diversity, and I'm prepared to listen to other thoughts, other opinions, I'm prepared to do everything. I'm a cool guy. But that's maybe when we're talking about football. But when you're talking about faith, when you're talking about elikus, there's a place where that stops. And we have to know, it's a little bit like that serenity prayer. The wisdom to know the difference. You got to know where to draw the line in the sand. Where are you tolerant and where you're not tolerant. There was a very, it's considered back 50, 60 years ago in America, one of the most prominent Reformed temples in the country was in Milwaukee. Temple Bethel. They had a rabbi who was a big headline person. He marched with Martin Luther King. He was always in the news, and he was a very bright man. And he was succeeded after he died, he was succeeded by a young star, somebody who spoke with word, he had a vocabulary that no words had less than 5 syllables. And he was an actor, and everybody was enthralled with him. So shortly after he had made this big impact on the congregation, he eventually left, not on good terms, but during this period of time when he was this spectacular star, I got a call from his program director. So the program director said to me, Rabbi Silberg would like for you to come and have a debate about kashrut. So I said to him, Mr. Pfefferman, I'll be very happy to come to speak to your men's club, to speak to your members of your congregation, but I'm not going to engage in a debate. I'm not going to appear on one platform and debate kashrus. So he made a big mistake, and he said to me, why? Are you afraid he will show you up? So I said to Mr. Pfefferman, let me try to explain this to you. I said to him, you're not going to be happy with this example because it's going to be very extreme. But let's say that someone were to say to you they want to have a debate. Forgive me, this is somewhat vulgar. I said to him, the debate is whether or not your wife should be raped. He screamed. He said, what? If you could have come through, in those days telephones had wires. If you could have come through the wire, he would have strangled me. But fortunately, it was good the other way. So I said to him, okay, I understand, it's a nasty example. Tell me what's wrong with that debate. He said, well, but that's not debatable. I said to him, kashrut is not debatable to me. Kashrut is an expression of the divine will, and the divine will is not debatable. I'm not going to want to debate with me whether I should be driving a Buick or an Oldsmobile or a Ford or a Hudson. Anybody remember Hudsons? Those are really neat cars. Anyway, so you want to debate with me about the kind of car? You can debate with me. I'm happy to do it. But you can't debate with me about oxygen. You want to debate with me whether or not I have the right to breathe 100% oxygen or 50% oxygen. That's not going to do it. That's my life. So I said, I'm not going to, this is not debatable. Some things are not debatable, and some things are not tolerable. if there is someone who supposedly is a member of our people and is defiant in a way which represents an offense to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then we have to speak up. The fact that Klal Yisrael did not speak up, at least from the standpoint of the Re'iyah Shabai, they saw, and Rabbi Michel saw that they failed to rise to the occasion. That was Vayar Elokim B'nai Yisrael. He saw the fact that they didn't stand up for him. But he also saw Vayeda. He knew something, and what he knew was that they had exclaimed Nasa v'Nishma. They didn't ask first, they didn't exclaim first, you have to explain things to us, you have to teach us, and when we know what we understand what we're doing, then we will do it. They said with a total bittul, they said with a total submission, with a complete surrender of self, they said, Nasa, we are prepared to do whatever you say, and then we will listen. Then we'll study it. Then we'll ask you questions about it. But the first thing, we are completely submissive to your will. That statement is a statement of Vayeh. That's a statement that addresses the core of Klal Yisrael, the fact that they were prepared to surrender everything in their lives to say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nasa, and what's more, they did so with one voice, Ki'ish echad v'lev echad, like one person with one heart. Everyone joined in one thunderous exclamation of devotion and submission. So, even though he saw that their humility had taken on this very tolerant expression of let them do whatever they want, and we don't have to get into any arguments with them. He also saw the Nasa v'Nishma, and he understood that they had made a mistake, but it was not a core mistake. It was an error in judgment, but it wasn't a core mistake. The core of the Klal Yisrael was one of complete love and complete submission and complete devotion. So it doesn't matter whether that came before or after. The Rabbi Michel saw it and he knew it and he understood it, and therefore that qualified Klal Yisrael to move forward with the redemption. The fact is that both Rish Lakish and Rabbi Shua ben Levi are Elu ve'elu Divrei Elokim Chayim, but they were looking at this from two different standpoints. Rabbi Shua ben Levi was looking at it from the standpoint of the Klal. That Klal Yisrael is a one unit. That Klal Yisrael are Ki'ish echad, they're one heartbeat, they're one pulse, they're one yearning, they're one connection. Klal Yisrael as a whole, and they derive their strength from the totality of the nation. So as a nation, they are capable of responding with one voice, Nasa v'Nishma. That is the core, and that's what qualifies Klal Yisrael to be redeemed by Kadosh Baruch Hu. Rish Lakish says, that's fine. He's not arguing the point, but he said that Rish Lakish is arguing that every yachid, every single one is worthy of being redeemed, because witness the fact that they said not Zeh Elokim, but they said Zeh Keli. Each one of them made a declaration of the fact that they were completely in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a yachid, no matter what else was happening. But they, as a yachid, were prepared to dedicate themselves wholeheartedly to this acquisition of Zeh Keli v'Anveu. This is, and I'll build, I myself will build a sanctuary for him. So the two of them are both, in a certain sense, arguing that what took place over here was a misappropriation of a midah teva that Klal Yisrael has, and in one case they were too tolerant, in another case they were too frightened and they judged themselves poorly. But that's not, those were errors in judgment. Those were surface things, but at the core, Klal Yisrael, at the essence of Klal Yisrael, is an essence that is sacred and incorruptible and connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the most profound way. if we move this down to ourselves, so I think we need to be able to look at ourselves today and say our forebears in Mitzrayim tolerated slavery for a very, very long time. And then something happened, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Came a point at which Klal Yisrael suddenly recognized that life was too empty. There came a point at which Klal Yisrael said, there's something wrong with this picture. What has become of us? What have we allowed the Egyptian culture to do to us? That we've lost our way, we've lost our self-respect, we've lost our she'ifos, we've lost our aspirations, our desire to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Where do we don't have any time to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We don't have a mind to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're just, we've been diminished into robots. We're nothing. And when they crossed that line, when they no longer could argue or rationalize the fact that their lives had meaning, that's when they began to scream. They were in such pain that they began to scream till the Medrash said, our lives are so. One of the Mefarshim says that the pasuk Tal Shavosem Elokim Minu Avoda is that Tal Shavosem Elokim, that their prayers about their relationship with the Rebbeinu Shalom, how the Rebbeinu Shalom has lost his nation, was even a greater source of pain to them than Minu Avoda, even more painful than the pain of their work. Their prayers about God went up, were even greater than Minu Avoda, than the pain of their avdus. But we've kind of settled in. I believe that the issue of complacency is not irrelevant to our lives. The issue of what we've come to accept as normal in our lives. There's a routine. We're not really saying to ourselves, am I structuring my time so that it reflects my aspirations? Am I learning enough? What's the quality of my learning? Some people are Meseh Nefesh to learn, but they don't. They learn at a time when they're wiped out, they're tired, and the quality of their learning is not as good as the time that they bring into the office. What's the quality of our davening? We rush through the davening and so where's the connection? What are we doing? What's the quality of when we do mitzvahs? I mean, this is autobiographical, by the way. I'm a very busy person, so when it comes sukkahs, I have everything. I have the sukkah up, and then I have the noise sukkah, and I have a beautiful lulav and a beautiful esrig and a dasim, and everything is terrific. But I haven't prepared. So there I am, sukkah's morning, and I'm shocking the lulav and esrig, and there's no chana, there's no preparation. What have I brought to it? Where is my mindset? Where is my passion? Where is my excitement? Where is my feeling of connection with the Rebbeinu Shalom because of so I mean, there's so many things that just go on. One day chases the next. We haven't reached the point, and we're not going to reach the point where we say to ourselves, this doesn't make any sense. There has to be more. There has to be more to life than this. There has to be more to Yiddishkeit than where I am and what I'm doing. And to some extent, I think that the message is one that gets transmitted. It's not something which is sufficiently vibrant and alive so that it's the kind of vibrancy which is irrefutable to our children and our grandchildren. So there's an interesting comment by the Aptarov. The Aptarov says, and in the Likutim in Ayiv Yisrael, so he says, Vayikra el Moshe, Vayidaber Hashem, whatever. So Vayikra el Moshe. So the Aptarov says that Medrash said that Moshe waited to be called. That's what Medrash said, that he wouldn't go into the Moed unless he was summoned. So the Aptarov says this is a limud. A person should not try to go up any higher madrega unless he is summoned from heaven, unless he's called from heaven. So if a person wants to do more than what they're doing, they have to wait for a baskal. They have to wait for... And then he goes on to say that one of the problems with people, he said, in his generation who are very depressed and crestfallen are people who have climbed too quickly to higher madregas, and they weren't worthy of those madregas, so sooner or later they had to fall, and they fell, and that crushed them. So he said the reason that happened is because they weren't called. So this is it's a pretty harsh commentary. He says, "Vayikra Moshe, you got to wait until you're called. Every Moshe, each one of us is a Moshe. You got to wait until you're called." The question is, if we're going to wait to hear a heavenly voice, then either we will remain stuck forever, or if we do hear heavenly voices, they will put us away in an institution. Because when we're hallucinating, it's not a good thing. It's not a healthy symptom. So so it seems to me that what he's saying is that a person should not attempt to go up to a higher madrega until the place where he is becomes intolerable. If a person is wherever he is davening, in his mitzvahs, in his shmir salosh, in his shmir sainaim, in his learning, in everything, in his yachas to other people, in every aspect of his life. If he wants to go up a madrega, it has to be because he says to himself, I can't be here anymore. I just can't, I can't stand myself. I can't bear to be this kind of a person 1 second longer. That is a kriya. That's vayikra. That means that Rabbi Michel has invested within him that kind of a sense that he has to move, that he can't stay where he's at. That where he's at is so futile and so empty that he can't bear to be there. So. I would suggest that this Medrash is telling us that the Rabbi Shalom can look at our lives and it'll be a re'iyah, which is the surface, but the real depth of each one of us is the fact that in each one of us there is the capacity to say Zak Keli, that we can move to a relationship with the Rabbi Shalom which is very personal and very rewarding and fulfilling on an individual level, and that we need to find ourselves in a chabura of people where we can say nas v'nishma, that we have the strength of a klal, we have the strength of belonging to a group who works together and encourages each other and supports each other and thinks together and strategizes together. So, and that was characteristic of many of the Hasidic courts in the past, where there would be chaburais, where they would come together, Chassidim would get together, they would talk to each other about their milas, their chesroinus, their challenges, and there would be the power of a group, and yet there was also an appreciation that everybody had their own unique calling. But we're fighting some very, very powerful adversaries. We're fighting today technology. We're fighting distractions. We're fighting in our own world, the fact that we're comfortable. There's, from a physical standpoint, we're not wanting Baruch Hashem, and the Rabbi Michel shouldn't challenge us with the nisoyin of aniyus, but the fact is that the circumstances of our lives make it very, very difficult for us to break the chains of convenience and comfort, and the fact that we can be indulgent of our appetites. So we're waiting today for a geula. We know that the situation for Klal Yisrael as a whole is frightening. The world is descending into a terrible malaise, into a pool of hatred and envy, and there's growing anti-Semitism, and we're surrounded by 2.5 billion Arabs who hate us. We are a thorn in the eye, not only of the Muslims, but we're also a thorn in the eyes of Christianity, because we're not supposed to be here. This is a refutation of their theology. So we're not in a good place. And we're not in a good place because of the fact that we have, Baruch Hashem, many blessings, and prosperity has had its impact on the quality of our ruchnius. Kishazak comes and neifel. There's just that simple relationship that when one goes up, one goes down. So somehow, somewhere, sometime, if we have a moment of sobriety and we can reflect upon where we are and where we might be or where we could be, if we could reflect upon the quality of what we become habituated to and what we know we could be if we could break our habituation, so that the Rabbi Michel could not only see the surface, and he could see our terror and our fright and our tolerance, but he could see the Zakeli V'Anbeo, and he could see the Nasa V'Nishma, which is really the real flame of our neshamas, and that which is capable of taking on virtually any enemy, no matter how great. So then, Matal Shavosenu would, our tefillos would go up to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and we would be zeicha to a gula. So that's our contribution. And any single one of us could be that linchpin. Any one of us could be that particular individual who could make it happen. We should not underestimate what any one of us might bring to the equation of the Gula. So, Hashem, the Sedras, the Parshas of Shemois, the Parshas of Golus, and Shibud Malchias, and Geula, the Eires of the Keiches of the Sedras, the Kriya is Ma'era. Just reading these words brings a hashpah of cherus, and we should be zeicher Mirz Hashem to cherus Eilam, Simchat Tzalma al Rishenu with the Biyas Gemitzah.